The bad headlines just keep on coming. The Chancellor of the Exchequer, and someone who at this rate we'll discover was basically a tea lady at the Bank of England for 3 weeks, is mired in yet another fresh scandal over lies about her professional past. The Times newspaper report that the beleaguered Chancellor, who has performed the rare magic trick of growing the economy by shrinking it, wrongly claimed to have work published in one of the world's leading economic journals. The Chancellor's entry in Who's Who, which is a directory of high-profile public figures, lists her as a contributor to the Journal of Political Economy, which is an iconic publication established at the University of Chicago in 1892. 1892! Is that when Rachel from Accounts was working at HBOS, by the way, in customer complaints? I digress. Now, the Journal of Political Economy is one of the oldest and most recognised periodicals in the field. To get your work in there is about the highest honour you can get as an economist. It's a badge of honour. It's a feather in your cap. And in the case of Rachel from Accounts, it's another big fat lie. And this is a problem because unlike LinkedIn, which is a website where entries can change and be updated, Who's Who is a leather-bound hard copy publication. It's an absolute tree of a book which features entries for the King, the Prime Minister, Paul McCartney, J.K. Rowling, Alex Ferguson, James Dyson and many more. In the past, Who's Who has featured entries for Charles Darwin, Professor Stephen Hawking, Admiral Lord Mountbatten, J.R.R. Tolkien and Winston Churchill. So let's just say it carries some weight, which is why this could prove highly damaging to Rachel Reeves, who, as I revealed 2 days ago on the Mark Dolan show, is being penciled in for the sack by the Prime Minister and has recently earned the unwelcome nickname of Reshuffle Rachel. Now, the Who's Who entry is a problem because it's there in black and white. Rachel's misleading creative writing is now a matter of public record in hard copy. In fact, her Who's Who entry should be in the fiction section next to Charles Dickens and William Shakespeare. Now, ludicrously, Reeves's office, who spend most of their time defending their boss rather than running the economy, claim that they do not know who was responsible for the provably inaccurate entry in Who's Who. Are you telling me that Rachel Reeves won't have written that short entry herself, given the significance of the book it was going into, or at least given a draft copy the once over before being published? How can Rachel Reeves have no knowledge of who created her entry, particularly given that it's full of lavish praise, including repeating the other big fat lie about her time at the Bank of England as an economist? Reeves's cowardly efforts to disown the story and blame someone else is a familiar pattern. Her LinkedIn post, LinkedIn being a website which features your career history, has had to be amended twice following 2 separate investigations into the Chancellor's fraudulent claims. The most recent tweak being made following a shocking BBC expose. When the lefty BBC come after a Labour Chancellor, you know you're in trouble. But regarding LinkedIn, Reeves's office said that a member of her team had written it, not her. So this is an individual in Rachel Reeves that will not take responsibility and appears happy to throw her colleagues under the bus for a mistake for which she is ultimately responsible. Now, I say mistake, that's a bit charitable. What we're witnessing here, in my view, is abject, systematic dishonesty. Just like the Chancellor's promise not to raise taxes before the election, before the biggest tax raid since the Second World War. And how morally weak not to stand up and take ownership of these blatant fabrications. So she didn't write the Who's Who entry, she didn't publish the LinkedIn posts. If that's true, which I doubt, what has she been doing? Working on her master plan to turn Britain into a communist nightmare by the looks of it. And I'm afraid that if something is published in your name, it doesn't matter whether someone else wrote it or not. The buck stops with you. For example, if an accountant does your tax return and it's full of mistakes, once you sign that tax return, you are responsible for its contents, not the accountant. In the end, it's your name on the signature. And so it's Rachel Reeves's name on this fallacious entry in Who's Who and her ludicrous claim of contributing to the Journal of Political Economy. Now, she appears to have indulged, the person who wrote it, because it definitely wasn't her, appears to have indulged in some rather clever sleight of hand. Because in fact, while she claims that she was a contributor to this iconic journal of political economy, she in fact published a single article in a far less revered publication called the European Journal of Political Economy. The error has been compared by others to claiming that you studied at Oxford University, but in fact, you were at Oxford Brookes. Well, I think it's worse than that. I think it's like claiming that you went to Oxford because you visited Oxford and had lunch there and then went for a punt in the river. Rachel Reeves, what a silly punt. I'm sorry, folks, I don't take kindly to being lied to, particularly by figures like Reeves and Starmer, who pathetically said that they were going to come in and clean up politics before hoovering up thousands of pounds worth of expensive clothes and hospitality from a millionaire donor. So now, anything that Rachel Reeves says about her past isn't worth the paper it's printed on. Now, why does this matter? Well, because she sold herself as some kind of economics guru before the election. Well, as we've seen from her record in office, effectively dragging Britain into recession, and with a quarter of firms now planning to lay people off to cope with her tax raid, not to mention misery heaped on farmers and pensioners, we have discovered the hard way that an economics guru, Rachel Reeves, is not. And here's the thing. You've got these two magazines, the Journal of Political Economy, revered and respected, and the European Journal of Political Economy, which is basically the Beano for people who like maths. Sir Richard Barnett, an emeritus professor at the University of Ulster, said the two journals were chalk and cheese, and that any academic economist would know the difference. One is world leading, he said. It's where economists aspire to publish, and it's incredibly competitive to get published. Barnett, by the way, the guy who first spotted this error in her Who's Who entry. He went on to say, if Rachel Reeves is a serious economist, she must know the difference between the two. Ouch! He added that an academic who made such a mistake on a job application would not be considered for the post. Yikes! Well, I don't think she should be considered for the post of Chancellor anymore. She has demonstrably proved her incompetence in office. I'm genuinely furious about the economic vandalism that we're currently seeing on her watch and the untold damage which is affecting ordinary people's lives and the future of this country. But it's not just her incompetence and her terrible policies. She has demonstrably proved her dishonest and devious character. I'm sorry, but she's a horrible liar, plain and simple. Anyone in a normal job responsible for a fraction of these fabrications on their CV would have been called into the HR department and given their marching orders. The lies about being in this famous publication are the last straw for Rachel Reeves. It's time another famous publication was sent her way, a P45. Thanks for watching. For an ad-free experience, written journalism, live videos, and the chance to message me directly, why don't you head over to my Substack at markdolan.com. See you there.